就在上个月，美国的亚裔喜剧人们呢，共同在 TCL 中国剧院呢上演了一个脱口秀节目《Crazy Funny Asians》疯狂搞笑的亚洲人。那他们这次演出呢，其实是为了呼吁全世界共同联手去抵制近日来层出不穷的针对亚裔的仇恨以及犯罪事件。那这次演出的发起人就是黄淑菲教授。今天的节目中呢，我们将继续对话黄教授，那了解一下他在美国成长、在英国深造的流金岁月。
You have designed both personal living space and also public structures. What strikes me is that there's that individual appeal to each of your design, but also that cohesiveness running through all your designs.
Designing is a little bit like being a parent, so it's very difficult to identify which one's your favorite. You love them all, but for different reasons.
Totally.
And I would say like maybe two of my favorites that are easier to pick out might be the Pure Tension Pavilion, which we did in Italy for Volvo, which was a portable solar-powered pavilion that also folded up and fit inside the trunk of the car. But when it opened up, it was covered in flexible photovoltaics, so it actually charged the car as well. And that one won a 2013 Time Magazine Top 25 Inventions of the Year, so that was a fun little prize to get out of that. The project we're working on right now, it's here in Los Angeles, and that's actually one of the reasons I'm really excited about it, because it's the first project I'm doing actually in my actual hometown where I live. And it's called Uxmal. It's a art gallery and event space in the Arts District. Working with a good friend of mine, Kevin Chen, who's the president of the Chinese Chamber. We're doing a kind of very future-forward thinking event space as a satellite space for LACMA, which will be home for fashion shows, art exhibits, and different events. And it's a really, really beautiful and exciting space, and really excited to see it. The other project I think that is very near and dear to my heart is actually still under construction right now. It's in China. It's in Yongding. And it's a performance hall for the Hakka community and the Hakka culture. And it's the site of the UNESCO World Heritage Site, where there's 20,000 tulo structures, the rammed earth donut-shaped homes. And this is a performance hall and boutique hotel and cultural center for celebrating that culture, but also serving a kind of community need in terms of providing a space for expressing their kind of cultural legacy and cultural heritage through Hakka performances. And my family is actually from Fujian, so it has a kind of special meaning to me to be working there. 我老家在泉州。
老家在泉州。
对。
What does it mean for you when you see a project of yours standing in your hometown?
It's pretty special. It's, I think, something that has resonated with me for a while, and is interesting for me as a foreign-born Chinese, American-born, British-trained, but doing projects now in China is really unique and really special in terms of being able to bring the experience that I've received outside of China to a place that I've never lived, but I have an obvious historical connection to.
In your blood.
Yeah, in my blood and in my ancestry, and something that I think is very much a part of who I am. My advice for prospective students of architecture is to make sure that they work on their portfolio. The portfolio is the strongest thing, but more than their portfolio is be yourself and show your personality, because I think architecture is a unique profession where I say that architecture is the last remaining applied liberal arts, meaning that you can go study architecture, but you're also studying politics, finance, economics, physics, science, engineering, art history, culture, society. You're learning how to question these things. You're learning how to challenge those things, think critically about them, reflect on them, come up with design solutions, meet a deadline, and put together a presentation to convince somebody else what you're thinking. And that's actually applicable to any discipline. So it's not just a way to practice architecture, it's a way to actually think about your existence in the world.
And your way of living.
Yes. Whether it's the pandemic, or it's Black Lives Matter, or it's systemic racism, or it's anti-Asian hate, what we've seen is that identity is something that we want to claim right now, and we want to express and actually carve out a place for ourselves in terms of representation, in terms of equity, in terms of making sure that our voices are heard. And I think that now is a moment that we should all be kind of more proactive about trying to not take our identity as something that stands as, this is who I am, so I'm pushing other people away, but your identity is actually something that connects you to other people. Well, LA is home. London is where I found myself and became who I am as a designer and as an architect. China is where I am discovering opportunity. And that opportunity is one, business opportunity, the other is opportunity for reflection and connection back to my own heritage. And I think one of the things that I advise students all the time is that to be a really, really good architect, you have to travel. Because if you don't travel, then you don't see the world. And if you don't see the world, you don't understand how people work, or how people think, or how people live. And I think one of the things that's very evident to me is that if you're standing inside of a room, your back is always to half the room. You have to leave the room to be able to see the rest of the room. And so when you leave, you come back knowing the place you left better than you did before.
In your design, I see that the futuristic element, the fluidity, and the level of awareness. That's on the receiving end for me as an audience. For you as a creator, when you design it, what is that process like for you?
I would say it's like being a parent, where I read an article once that said being a parent is 49% pain, 51% joy, but that 2% makes all the difference. And design is very much 49% pain, 51% joy, but that 2% delta makes all the difference. And so it is a painful process. It's a process of torments. You're struggling, you're pushing, you're pulling, you're thinking, you're struggling. Then there's moments of joy where you've discovered something and you hit it, and there's this rhythm, and you just produce and things come together. And that moment when things come together is like no other. It's a kind of crystallizing of all these different ideas that come together, and suddenly you realize that this is what you want, right? And I think a lot of times you don't know what you're looking for until you find it. A lot of those moments are things that come through passive thinking rather than active thinking. And I think that's one of the things that has gotten away from a lot of contemporary society, is this idea of passive thinking versus active thinking. Because now in society, you're always doing something or you're on your phone. Right? Like if you're not doing something, you're on your phone.
Yeah.
And so the passive,
it's exhausting.
Right. And so when you're on your phone, you're not passive thinking. You're actually just scrolling and
preoccupied.
You're distracting yourself. Distracting yourself. And passive thinking historically has been, let's say, sitting on a wagon for 8 hours, going from one side of the country to the other side of the country, doing nothing, just sitting there. And that's when the biggest moments of reflection, introspection, thinking occur, is when you have nothing to do but think, and you're just passively digesting things.
And being in the moment, be present in the now.
Absolutely. And so for me, historically, one of the biggest things that has helped me a lot with coming up with best ideas has been exercise, being on my bike, or being on a basketball court, or being wherever, where I'm not doing the thing I'm thinking about. but it's in the back of my head. And I'm riding the bike and avoiding traffic, weaving through traffic, and suddenly something clicks, and I'm like, that's it. I need to write that down. I need to pull over. I need to remember that. And I get really excited. And I think those are the moments that are stand out to me.
When you reach that meditative state.
Yeah.
Very recent project of yours, not an architecture project. It's a stand-up comedy show called Crazy Funny Asians.
Yes.
It was such a blast and success.
It was, but I would call it an unfortunate success. It was a great success in terms of what we were able to achieve. We were able to raise a lot of funds, have a great time. The comedians killed it. It was hilarious. But it was unfortunate, the circumstances as to why we had the show in the first place.
Right.
I think Asian Americans right now are having the most success that they've ever had in mainstream society, whether it's success in architecture or business, finance, film, entertainment, and comedy. But we're also having a huge spike in anti-Asian hatred. And so we came together as a kind of move for solidarity to bring Asian Americans together, not just Chinese Americans, but Asian Americans, Chinese Americans, Korean Americans, Vietnamese Americans, Japanese Americans, just getting all of the kind of Asian American community together to show solidarity against anti-Asian hatred.
Another special layer of meaning is that you're also raising a family here in California.
Absolutely. I mean, my kids are half Chinese, half Mexican, but they are also American citizens and British citizens. So they're multicultural by definition. And I think it's something that is very much about what contemporary American society is about. But at the same time, there's a legacy of hate and ignorance that still exists in this country. And it's something that we can do something about.
The process of producing the show is about bringing people together.
Yeah.
Part of our human existence is about feeling that connection and being connected.
What comedy does is comedy connects us to one another. It's about relating to people and understanding how much we have in common, and that we all have more in common than we have different, right? And our commonalities are stronger than our differences. And that's really what comedy does, is it highlights how alike we are, that we can laugh together and that we can connect over the same things.
And it brings people together through laughter in such a positive and inspiring way.
Oh yeah, it's like therapy.
Yes.
It's very, very therapeutic. The biggest hurdle was time. We decided to do it and had about a month to put everything together, and the rest really just fell into place. But you know, whether it was Stand With Asians as our philanthropic partner, or the comedians that just came out and, you know, were able to support us and share the time with everybody else. The rest of it was just sweat and, you know, trying to get the word out and get people excited about it. And it was a great hit. We had 330 people attend.
In TCL.
In TCL, Chinese Theater, like legendary venue in Los Angeles. And we're now planning the next one. So we're targeting for the end of May for AAPI Heritage Month. And hopefully we'll be able to put on a bigger, better show and raise more money for supporting solidarity against anti-Asian hate.
我个人呢十分的佩服乃至尊敬黄树飞教授，那不仅仅是因为他的作品享誉全世界，更是因为他身上体现了一种极大的社会责任感。就像我们上期节目中所说的那样，在美国疫情爆发的初期呢，在整个社会物资极度匮乏的情况下，那他呢站了出来，联手其他人呢一起通过建筑的方式呢做了很多的应急口罩发放给民众们。那在当下呢，整个社会对于亚裔的仇恨以及这种犯罪的事件层出不穷的这种恶劣的环境下，他也挺身而出，用实际行动呢去抵制这种行为。所以呢，我觉得黄教授给我们展现的是一种不屈不挠的一种社会责任感和一种精神。那我最后呢，也希望说，亚裔要想在全世界范围内崛起，那改变自己的地位呢，就需要我们所有人共同努力呢，一起去开创一个新的局面。好了，那今天节目就到这里，我们下周再会。